Picture this: 30 families crammed into circular felt tents scattered across endless grassland. The Mongolian steppe stretches in every direction. No running water, no sewage systems, no permanent infrastructure. Just nomads, their animals, and the harsh reality of survival in one of Earth's most unforgiving environments. By every modern standard, these conditions should breed catastrophic disease outbreaks. Cholera, dysentery, typhoid, these same killers that devastated medieval cities and wiped out entire settlements. Yet somehow, Mongol herders not only survived, they built the largest contiguous empire in human history while living in portable homes that moved every few weeks. How did they manage waste without falling sick? Here's what makes this puzzle even more fascinating. Mongols lived closer to animals than almost any other civilization. Horses, sheep, goats, yaks, and camels surrounded every camp. Animal waste mixed with human waste. Milk products fermented in leather bags. Raw meat hung drying in the open air. Everything that should create a perfect storm for disease transmission. Yet these were the people who conquered China, Persia, Russia, and Eastern Europe. Their military campaigns lasted months, sometimes years, with entire armies living in temporary camps. If poor sanitation could collapse civilizations, it should have started with the Mongols. The answer lies not in what they built, but in how they thought about waste itself. Unlike settled peoples who tried to contain and control their waste, Mongols developed a completely different philosophy. They didn't fight the environment, they partnered with it. And this partnership created one of history's most effective waste management systems hidden in plain sight on the grasslands of Central Asia. Spring arrives late on the Mongolian plateau. The ground, frozen solid for 6 months, begins its slow thaw. This is when archaeologists working near Karakoram make a startling discovery. Unlike excavations of medieval European cities, where human waste layers build up year after year, creating thick deposits of contamination, the Mongol sites show something different. Thin, scattered traces. No concentrated waste dumps. No evidence of the massive sanitation infrastructure that defined other civilizations. At first, this seems impossible. Historical records describe Karakoram at its peak, housing over 100,000 people. Where did all their waste go? The answer becomes clear when you understand the fundamental difference between Mongol waste management and everyone else's. They never let it accumulate in the first place. The traditional Mongol gear, what outsiders call a yurt, sits directly on the ground. No raised foundation, no sealed floor, no basement or cellar. This isn't poor construction, it's intentional design. The felt walls and wooden frame create a temporary structure that touches the earth as lightly as possible. When waste needs disposal, it goes directly into the soil beneath their feet. But soil isn't just dirt to the Mongols, it's a living system. The Mongolian steppe experiences temperature swings that would kill most bacteria. Summer days reach 40 degrees Celsius while winter nights plunge to -50. These extreme cycles create natural sterilization. Pathogens that survive in moderate climates die in the brutal freeze-thaw cycles of the steppes. What seems like harsh living conditions becomes a powerful ally in waste management, but temperature alone doesn't explain their success. The real genius lies in mobility itself. Mongol families moved their camps every few weeks, following seasonal patterns that had been refined over centuries. This wasn't random wandering, it was precision engineering disguised as nomadism. By the time any waste concentration could build up to dangerous levels, the camp had moved on. The abandoned site had months to naturally process whatever organic matter remained. Think about what this means practically. A typical Mongol family group of 30 people might occupy a campsite for 3 to 4 weeks maximum. Human waste disperses naturally into the soil during this time. Organic matter begins decomposition, but before bacterial concentrations could reach dangerous levels, the entire camp relocates 20 kilometers away. The abandoned site gets a complete biological reset. Rain, snow, wind, and seasonal temperature changes complete the cleaning process naturally. This creates an entirely different relationship with waste than settled peoples developed. Medieval European cities built latrines, sewage channels, and waste processing facilities because they couldn't move. The Mongols moved because staying still meant death, not just from waste contamination, but from overgrazing that would destroy the grasslands their animals needed. Waste management became just one benefit of a lifestyle designed around environmental sustainability. But moving camps doesn't address immediate sanitation needs. How did families manage daily waste disposal without creating health hazards inside their living spaces? The answer reveals another layer of Mongol innovation. They turned their animals into partners in the sanitation system. Mongol horses weren't just transportation, they were waste processing units. These hardy steppe horses could eat almost anything organic. Food scraps, vegetable waste, even human excrement in emergencies. What would become dangerous organic buildup in a settled community became horse feed on the steppes. The horses processed the waste through their digestive systems, converting potential disease vectors into fertilizer that enriched the grassland. Sheep and goats provided the next layer of processing. These animals would graze areas around former campsites, consuming organic matter that horses couldn't handle. Their hooves churned waste into the soil, speeding decomposition. Their own waste mixed with human waste, diluting harmful bacterial concentrations. Instead of waste building up around living areas, it got processed and recycled through the livestock that defined Mongol wealth. Even the dogs played a role. Mongol families kept large, mastiff-type dogs that would consume organic waste that might attract scavengers or pests. These dogs essentially served as living garbage disposals, eliminating food waste before it could spoil and create health hazards. The dogs themselves were too valuable as guards and hunting companions to pose waste management problems. They lived outside the gers and deposited their waste far from living areas. This animal-integrated system had another crucial advantage. It eliminated the labor costs of waste management. European cities required dedicated workers to collect, transport, and dispose of waste. These sanitation workers often died from disease exposure. Mongol families simply fed waste to their animals as part of daily herding routines. No separate waste collection, no transportation costs, no exposure risks for specialized workers. Yet this animal integration strategy only worked because of something else hidden in Mongol culture. Their diet itself minimized waste production in ways that would take European nutritionists centuries to understand. Mongols consumed almost everything edible from their animals, not just meat, but blood, organ meats, bone marrow, even intestinal contents. What other cultures discarded as waste, Mongols ate as delicacies. Mare's milk became arag, fermented into a mildly alcoholic beverage that could be stored for months. Yak milk became dried curds that lasted through winter. Sheep blood mixed with grain created portable nutrition that European armies would have envied. By consuming nearly 100% of their animals, Mongols produced minimal organic waste compared to agricultural societies that discarded huge portions of their food sources. This near-complete consumption pattern emerged from necessity, not choice. Life on the steppes offered no backup food sources. You ate everything edible, or you starved. But the unintended consequence was revolutionary waste reduction. A Mongol family produced perhaps 10% of the organic waste generated by a European family of similar size. Less waste meant fewer disease vectors and easier disposal. The Mongols also solved the drinking water problem through methods that seemed primitive but proved brilliantly effective. They rarely drank water straight from streams or lakes. Instead, they consumed fermented Mare's milk, weak alcoholic beverages, and tea boiled with milk and salt. This wasn't cultural preference. It was accidental disease prevention. Fermentation processes that created arag killed most waterborne pathogens. The alcohol content, though low, provided additional antimicrobial protection. Boiling water for tea eliminated bacteria and parasites that would have devastated communities dependent on untreated water sources. Mongols didn't understand germ theory, but their traditional drinks provided the same protection that modern water treatment systems deliver. Tea culture deserves special attention here. Mongol families consumed enormous quantities of tea, often drinking it continuously throughout the day. This required constantly boiling water. Every cup of tea represented pathogen-free hydration. The salt and milk added to the tea provided essential nutrients, while further inhibiting bacterial growth. What appeared to be simple hospitality customs actually constituted one of history's most effective water purification systems. But even perfect waste disposal and clean drinking water couldn't eliminate all disease risks. Mongols lived in extremely close quarters during harsh weather. A single gyr might house an extended family of 15 people during winter months. These conditions should have facilitated disease transmission. The Mongols developed cultural practices that prevented epidemics without understanding the underlying science. Personal hygiene rituals among Mongols were far more sophisticated than their nomadic lifestyle might suggest. Archaeological evidence from Mongol burial sites reveals elaborate grooming tools, bone combs, bronze mirrors, tweezers, and even early toothbrushes made from animal hair. These weren't luxury items. They were survival equipment. Daily grooming served multiple functions. Combing removed lice and other parasites before they could reproduce and spread through the close living family group. Regular hair washing with fermented mare's milk eliminated scalp infections. The lactic acid in fermented milk created an environment hostile to harmful bacteria while nourishing healthy skin flora. Mongols had accidentally discovered what modern dermatologists call pH-balanced skincare. Clothing maintenance followed similar principles. Mongol garments were designed for easy cleaning and replacement. The famous deel, the traditional Mongol robe, could be washed in streams, dried quickly in the steppe winds, and repaired with simple tools. Unlike European clothing that required complex cleaning processes, Mongol garments shed dirt and grime naturally. The felt and leather construction actually improved with use and weather exposure. Seasonal clothing changes provided additional disease prevention. Winter garments were carefully stored during summer months, allowing any lice, fleas, or other parasites to die off naturally. Summer clothing was discarded or recycled when cold weather arrived. This seasonal rotation broke parasite life cycles that devastated settled populations, forced to wear the same clothes year-round. But perhaps the most ingenious aspect of Mongol sanitation was how they handled human waste during travel. Armies and herding groups couldn't always stop to establish proper campsites. During forced marches or urgent migrations, immediate waste disposal became critical. The Mongols developed portable solutions that modern military units would recognize. Mongol warriors carried leather containers that served multiple purposes: water storage, food preparation, and emergency waste disposal. When immediate relief was necessary during travel, waste went into these containers, which were then tied to the outside of pack animals. The constant motion, exposure to air, and temperature fluctuations created conditions that accelerated decomposition while minimizing odor and health risks. More importantly, these containers were emptied and cleaned at the first opportunity when the group stopped for the night. The waste was buried in small, scattered locations rather than concentrated dumps. By dawn, when the group moved on, there was no trace of their sanitation activities. This scatter burial technique prevented waste accumulation while ensuring that future travelers wouldn't encounter contamination. Winter presented special challenges that reveal the full sophistication of Mongol waste management. When the ground froze solid for months at a time, normal burial became impossible. European cities during this period faced catastrophic sanitation crises as waste piled up in frozen courtyards and streets. The Mongols solved this problem through thermal engineering that wouldn't look out of place in modern cold climate construction. Central fire management in Mongol gurs created waste processing opportunities that most people miss. The traditional fire pit in the center of the gur generated intense heat that could process organic waste even in freezing temperatures. Food scraps, small amounts of human waste, and other organic matter could be burned completely, reducing it to sterile ash that posed no health risks. The chimney system in traditional gurs created updraft that ensured complete combustion and eliminated odors. Ash residue was removed regularly and scattered around the campsite, where it provided nutrients for spring grass growth. The Mongols had essentially created a decentralized incineration system using technology available to Stone Age peoples. For larger waste processing during winter camps, Mongols dug thermal pits using techniques that modern permafrost researchers still study. By burning fires in strategic locations, they could create pockets of unfrozen ground even in temperatures that would freeze pipes in modern buildings. These thermal pits served as waste processing centers that remained active throughout the harsh winter months. The engineering required for this thermal management was remarkably sophisticated. Mongol families had to calculate fuel requirements, manage airflow, control combustion temperatures, and maintain thermal pits for months without modern tools or materials. The fact that they accomplished this while living in portable structures demonstrates technical knowledge that rivals modern cold climate engineering. Yet all these individual solutions work together because of something even more fundamental. Mongol society was organized around waste prevention rather than waste management. This philosophical difference explains why their sanitation systems succeeded where more technically advanced civilizations failed. European cities tried to control waste through infrastructure, build bigger sewers, hire more waste collectors, create more elaborate disposal systems. The more people produced waste, the more complex the management systems became. Eventually, these systems reached points where they broke down under their own complexity, creating the disease outbreaks that devastated medieval urban populations. Mongols approached the problem from the opposite direction. Instead of building systems to manage waste, they organized their entire lifestyle to minimize waste production. Mobility prevented accumulation. Animal integration created biological processing. Complete consumption reduced organic waste volumes. Cultural practices eliminated health risks before they could develop into systematic problems. This prevention-focused approach had another crucial advantage. It scaled automatically. A single Mongol family used the same basic waste management principles as an entire tribe of thousands. There were no complex hierarchies of waste management workers, no infrastructure that could fail during crises, no centralized systems that created single points of failure. When Genghis Khan organized the Mongol armies for their world conquest campaigns, he didn't need to design new sanitation systems for massive troop formations. The same principles that worked for small family groups scaled up to armies of 100,000 warriors. Each unit remained mobile. Each group processed its own waste through livestock. Each formation moved before waste could accumulate to dangerous levels. This scalability explains how Mongol armies could campaign for years without the disease outbreaks that destroyed other military forces. European armies regularly lost more soldiers to disease than combat because their sanitation systems couldn't handle the logistical demands of large troop formations. Mongol armies faced no such limitations because their sanitation system was distributed rather than centralized. Archaeological evidence supports this interpretation. Sites associated with major Mongol military campaigns show the same scattered, minimal waste signatures as small family campsites. Even temporary cities housing tens of thousands of people left behind waste patterns that look more like modern dispersed camping than concentrated urban settlements. But the Mongol system did have costs that shouldn't be ignored. Their mobility-based waste management required enormous amounts of land. A single Mongol family needed perhaps 50 times more territory than a settled farming family to maintain their lifestyle sustainably. This worked on the vast steppes of Central Asia, but couldn't be replicated in more densely populated regions. The animal integration that made their waste management possible also created environmental impacts that wouldn't be acceptable by modern standards. Overgrazing was a constant threat that required careful management of movement patterns and seasonal rotations. Areas that couldn't recover from intensive grazing had to be abandoned permanently. Their complete consumption approach, while minimizing waste, also meant extremely limited dietary diversity during certain seasons. Mongol families faced periodic malnutrition when weather or other factors reduced animal productivity. The same efficiency that eliminated waste also eliminated dietary safety margins that agricultural societies enjoyed. Yet, despite these limitations, the Mongol approach to waste management succeeded in conditions that would defeat modern sanitation systems. Contemporary military units operating in similar environments require massive logistical support to maintain basic sanitation. Helicopter waste evacuation, chemical processing systems, specialized equipment that breaks down in extreme conditions. Mongol families maintained effective sanitation using only materials they could carry on horseback. No external supply chains, no backup systems, no technical specialists, just cultural knowledge passed down through generations and refined through centuries of trial and error. When modern disaster relief organizations work in remote areas, they often struggle with sanitation challenges that Mongol herders solved routinely. The broader lesson here goes beyond historical curiosity. The Mongols demonstrate that effective sanitation doesn't require complex technology or massive infrastructure investment. It requires thinking systematically about waste as part of a larger environmental relationship rather than as a problem to be solved through engineering alone. Modern sanitation systems, for all their technical sophistication, often create new problems while solving old ones. Sewage treatment plants require enormous energy inputs. Landfills create long-term contamination risks. Waste transportation systems generate pollution and traffic problems. The more complex our waste management becomes, the more vulnerable it becomes to system failures. Mongol waste management worked because it was simple, distributed, and integrated with natural processes rather than fighting against them. Waste became input for other systems. Problems at one level were solved by activities at another level. Nothing existed solely to manage waste because everything contributed to waste processing as part of its primary function. This integration principle offers insights for modern sustainable living that go far beyond waste management. Instead of building separate systems to solve each environmental challenge, the Mongols created lifestyle patterns where solutions to one problem automatically helped solve others. Mobility prevented waste accumulation while also preventing overgrazing and resource depletion. Their success lasted for centuries. From the rise of the Mongol Empire in the early 1200s through the gradual transition to settled lifestyles in the 1700s, nomadic Mongols maintained effective sanitation without major disease outbreaks. Even today, traditional herders in Mongolia use modified versions of these same principles, adapted to modern materials and circumstances, but following the same basic logic. The transition away from traditional Mongol sanitation happened gradually as families adopted more settled lifestyles and integrated with agricultural communities. Modern Mongolia faces many of the same sanitation challenges as other developing countries, with centralized waste management systems that struggle to serve scattered rural populations effectively. Yet in remote areas where traditional herding continues, elements of the old system persist. Herders still move their camps seasonally. Livestock still processes organic waste. Consumption patterns still minimize waste production compared to urban populations. The fundamental principles that kept Mongol families healthy for centuries remain relevant and effective under the right conditions. The Mongols never wrote treatises on waste management theory. They left no technical manuals describing their sanitation systems. The knowledge survived through practice, embedded in cultural traditions that seemed to be about hospitality, animal care, and seasonal migration, but actually constituted one of history's most successful approaches to public health. Understanding their methods doesn't require romanticizing nomadic life or ignoring its hardships and limitations, but it does offer perspectives on waste management that modern sanitation engineering often overlooks. Sometimes the most effective solution isn't building better waste processing systems. Sometimes it's organizing life so that waste processing happens naturally as part of other essential activities. The Mongols managed waste on the grasslands by refusing to let it become waste in the first place. They turned potential problems into inputs for other systems. They prevented accumulation rather than managing it after the fact. They partnered with natural processes instead of trying to control them through technology. These principles worked for centuries in some of Earth's harshest environments, keeping families healthy while building one of history's most successful civilizations. 5 centuries before modern germ theory, nomadic herders had mastered an ancient truth that urban planners are only beginning to rediscover. The most sustainable waste management system is one that never lets waste build up to dangerous levels. Sometimes the smartest solution isn't solving the problem directly, it's organizing life so the problem solves itself.